everyone, it's Jennifer from Flux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to crochet this really easy and super fun playtime mini pillow. This is a simple granny square, and I've made two and sandwiched them together. Then I will show you also in this video how to make a simple pillow form that you can use to stuff your pillow if you don't want to buy a store-bought one or don't have one in the exact dimensions that you need, which happens frequently. And then we're going to finish it off with 4 fun and multicolor pom-poms. The finished pillow is about 8 inches across and 8 inches tall, and each one of these pom-poms is about 2 inches wide. And I'm going to show you how to make these pom-poms later on in the video without any special tools either. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a pair of scissors, a 6mm J crochet hook. A ruler is helpful when you're making your squares, a tapestry needle, and your yarn. I'm going to be using, for the 4 pom-poms at each corner, I'm going to use Red Heart Super Saver. I had some really pretty bright colors that kind of went along with the main yarn for the squares. And speaking of which, for the 2 squares that we'll be sandwiching together, I'm going to be using a yarn called Tweed Twist by Red Heart. This is the Neon Royal color. And if you need to substitute yarn, just look for a worsted weight yarn that's a 4 on the yarn weight scale. And this actually recommends an I crochet hook. I'm going to be using a J crochet hook for this one, but if you stick to a worsted weight yarn, it should work nicely. The colors for the pom-poms are bright yellow, spring green, shocking pink, and I believe this is Delft blue. Now, if you want to make your own pillow form, you can buy these pre-made, but if you want to make your own, I usually make my own. You'll need some scrap fabric. You'll also need some fiberfill to stuff your pillow. I'm going to be using a little bit more than this, but I just grabbed a little handful to show you. And a hot glue gun, or you can sew it. I just usually glue mine. It's all concealed and hidden within the pillow, so just doing a quick hot glue is sufficient. So, but if you want to buy a store-bought pillow form, definitely feel free to do that as well. So let's get started. To construct your pillow, you're going to need 2 of these squares. This is a solid granny square, and I chose the solid granny square because it's going to conceal most of the pillow form. You're still going to see a little bit through these holes. That's why I chose that blue fabric. You can choose any color you like. And so we're going to make 2 of these squares. Then I'm going to show you how to make the pom-poms. Then I'm going to show you how to seam your 2 squares together, and then we're going to stuff the pillow and then finish it up. So I went ahead and made 1 square. Now, like I mentioned before, this is approximately 8 inches across and 8 inches tall. So let's make the other square together, and then we'll move on to the next part. So I'm going to just slide this out of the way. Our granny square is 6 rounds, so we're going to do each round together. So to begin, you want to wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop, bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up the loop, and tighten. Okay, we're going to create a ring that will be working all of the stitches into the center of. So to do that, we're going to chain 4. To make a chain, wrap yarn around hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now in the chain farthest from our hook, we're going to join with a slip stitch to create the ring. So insert the hook into that chain farthest from the hook, bring up a loop. Now bring that loop through the loop that's already on your hook, and you might want to open up your ring a little bit to work your stitches into. This tail here, we're going to hold along the edges we work, and that will weave the ends in as we go along. So to begin, we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to work 3 double crochets into the center of the ring. So to make a double crochet, wrap yarn around hook, insert the hook into the center of the ring, bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops on your hook. So we're going to do a total of 3. So that was 1, then 2, and 3. Next, we're going to work a chain 2, 1, 2. Then you're going to work 3 more double crochet into the center of the ring. So 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2 once again, 1 and 2. If you need to push your stitches over, Definitely do that to make yourself some more space and get that tail along the edge again. Then work 3 more double crochet into the center of the ring. So 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then this time we're going to work just 2 double crochet into the center of the ring. So 1 and 2. Now, this was the chain 5 at the beginning of the round. The first 3 chains of this count as a double crochet also. See how we worked in groups of 3 all the way around? So this is going to be part of that. So we did 2 at the end. So that'll be 1, 2, and then these first 3 chains make 3. These other 2 chains here, because remember we did a chain 5. So the first 3 are the double crochet. The next 2 are the chain 2 that creates these corners. Okay? So to finish off the round, hopefully that makes sense. To finish off the round, we're going to count 3 chains up. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to join with a slip stitch to close the round. So insert the hook in that 3rd chain up, bring up a loop, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And round 1 is complete. So what I like to do each round is just kind of sharpen up those corners. So it's a little tiny square, and it's just the beginnings of what our larger square looks like. Okay, so let's move on to round 2 next. What we need to do though, we're not quite in the right spot to begin the round, so we need to slip stitch over to this first corner space. So just insert your hook into that corner space, bring up a loop, bring that loop through the loop already on your hook. And now we're in the right spot, okay? So to begin round 2, we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Round 2 will basically be what you'll be doing for every round, except the sides will grow, and I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. So we did a chain 5 to begin the round. Now work 2 double crochets in that same corner space. So that's 1 and 2. Now we're going to work a double crochet in each stitch. So the solid granny squares, you're going to be alternating between working into the spaces for the corners and working into the stitches for the sides. So we have 3 side stitches for round 2. So what you might need to do for your corners is maybe slide things over a little bit to see that first stitch. See that first loop there? It's a little bit, can be hidden sometimes. So that's 1, 2, and 3. You can see we've worked into the stitches. Okay, now we're in another corner. So work 2 double crochets into that corner space. The space, I want to emphasize that. So 2 double crochets, then chain 2, and then in the same corner space, work 2 more double crochet. 1 and 2. Now we're at a side again. So if you need to slide things over a bit to see that first stitch, see that first hole there? So work 1, 2, and 3. Now we're at a corner space. So do 2 double crochet, 1, 2, chain 2. Same thing for the other corners. I'm going to get a little bit more yarn here. And then 2 more double crochets all in that same corner space. So that's 1 and 2. Okay, let's work the sides one more time. Double crochet in that first stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch. And then we're at another corner. This is our last corner till we get to the end, and I'll show you how to finish up the end. So once again, work 2 double crochets in that corner space, not the stitch this time, the space, chain 2, and then 2 double crochet all in that same corner space. Okay, now we're at our last side. So once again, we're going to work into those stitches. So I always feel like I need to slide that corner over in order to see that stitch right there. Okay, so work a double crochet into that first stitch, So that's 1, whoops, 2, and 3. Now we are back to where we started. So what we're going to need to do is work a double crochet. So each corner we've done consists of 2 double crochets, a chain 2, and 2 double crochets. We have our starting chain here. So once again, those first 3 chains count as a double crochet, and then you have the 2 chains for the corner space. So work a double crochet into the corner space of your square, just like that. And now we're going to count 1, 2, 3 chains up and join with a slip stitch to close the round. Same thing we did before. Okay? So round 2 is complete, and it's starting to grow already. So next we're going to move on to round 3. Round 3 is pretty much exactly like round 2, except for our sides, as you can see, are growing. Now let's look at our square. You can see here are the corners all the way up and down that we've worked. You can see it looks like a pie wedge. So each round you do, there will be more side stitches to work, and that's how your square grows. Okay? So what we're going to do for every round after this, you're going to work the corners the same exact way, but there will be more side stitches. As you can see, there's more across. So once again, we're not quite where we need to be. So slip stitch into that first corner space to get where you need to go, and then chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Work 2 double crochet in that corner space. 1 and 2. Then once again, if you need to slide those corner stitches over it a tiny bit to see that stitch, feel free to do that. That always helps me when I'm making this particular type of square. We're just going to work a double crochet in each stitch all the way across till we get to the next corner space. So just work your double crochets in each stitch across. And we're at the last one, and we're also at our corner space. So let me just, my yarn's kind of hanging down there. Okay, so corner space worked the same way. 2 double crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, and 2 double crochet. And if we look back at what we've just done, you can see how our sides are growing. As we move outward, it's also moving, it's opening up, or it's growing wider as well. Okay, so we worked our corners. Now slide that over if you need to, and work a double crochet in each stitch all the way across. And this is really fun yarn to work with because of all of the fun neon color changes. This, even though there is a continuous blue strand throughout the entire ball of yarn, you have all these really, they're short color changes. So if we look at the strand of yarn, you can see they change very quickly. Orange, very quickly to yellow, very quickly to green, yellow, pink. So it's almost, I mean, for me at least, it's almost kind of entertaining when you're using yarns that are variegated and have a color change, because every stitch pretty much that I'm working is a slightly different color. And it creates this all over kind of confetti look. Okay, now we're at the side again. So work a double crochet in each side stitch all the way across. And this is a really fast little pillow to work up. And obviously, if you'd like to make your pillow bigger than mine, again was 8 inches. If you want to make like a 12-inch pillow or even larger, just work more rounds of the square. You can make the square as big or small as you'd like it to be. It's very customizable. Now we're at the corner again. So 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet, all in that corner space. Okay, and then we're at our last side because you can see where we began down here. So go ahead and work a double crochet in each side stitch as well. And that'll take you right up to the end of round 3. And we're going to be doing a total of 6 rounds, if I hadn't mentioned that before. Okay, last stitch there, work your double crochet, and then once again we're at the corner. We need to finish off this corner where we began. Work a double crochet into the corner space, then count 3 chains up, 1, 2, 3, join with a slip stitch to close the round. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3 rounds of our square, and it's growing with every round. So we still have 3 more rounds to go. Okay, so let's move on to round 4. For round 4, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to slip stitch over to that first corner space and then chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Work 2 double crochets into that corner space. So 1 and 2. And then we're going to do part of round 4 together because it is so similar to round 3. I'm just going to show you because there are more side stitches to work. So once again, if you need to slide that corner over just a little bit to see that first stitch, and then we're just going to work a stitch in a double crochet in every stitch all the way across this side till you get to the end. So let's do this first side and then the first corner together, and then I'll show you how to finish up the round. It's the same thing we've done before, but it is nice to be able to see it. Okay, just working a double crochet, and as you can see, there's more stitches for this round, and there'll be even more stitches on the sides for the next round as well, and so forth. Just work a double crochet in each one of those stitches. Okay, now we're at the end. I am going to work this corner once again, 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2, and 2 double crochet. So you're just going to keep doing the same thing all the way around your square for round 4. Work your side stitches, work the corner, side stitches, corner, and then once we get towards the end of this round, we'll rejoin and we'll finish off round 4 and move on to round 5. Okay, I'm just coming up to the end of round 4, working that last side stitch. Then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to work a double crochet into the corner space to finish off the round, and then count 3 chains up, 1, 2, 3, and work a slip stitch to close off the round. So round 4 is complete. Let's grab our square. We can see we just have 2 more rounds until it becomes the same size as our other square. All right, so moving right along, we're going to do the same thing. Slip stitch into that first corner space, chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Do the same thing as the last round. Work 2 double crochet into that corner space. And then for round 5, still doing the same thing. Work a double crochet in each stitch across. So I am also going to go ahead and work this round, and then we'll rejoin towards the end of this round. So go ahead and work a double crochet in each stitch all the way across. Work your corners the same way we've been doing, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, work your side stitches, and then once we get all the way around towards the end, we'll rejoin again. Okay, just coming up to the final round stitch of round 5. So once again, work that last stitch, work a double crochet in that corner space, and then count 3 chains up and join with a slip stitch to close the round. Okay, so round 5 is complete, and now we just have 1 more round for our pillow. Okay, so do the same thing. Slip stitch over to that first corner space and chain 5. Work 2 double crochet in that first space. That's 1 and 2. And then we're just going to do the same thing. Work a double crochet in every side stitch all the way across until you get to your corner space. So work 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet in that corner space. Come down and work double crochets in each stitch. Do the corner stitches across, corner stitches, and then we'll rejoin towards the end of this round. So we're just basically repeating the same rounds we've been doing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work the round and we'll rejoin once we get to right about here towards the end of the round. Okay, I'm just working that last stitch. We're in the home stretch of the last round of our square. So I just worked that last stitch, work a double crochet into the corner space, count 3 chains up, 1, 2, 3, and join with a slip stitch to close the round. And your square then will be complete. So we did a total of 6 rounds. And I'm just going to cut the yarn. And then we can fasten that off just like that. So now we have 2 squares. Now what I want to do next is we need to grab our tapestry needle and we need to do 2 things here. This center tail that we wove in as we went along, give that a really firm tug and then flip it back over and then flip your other one over, give that a tug as well, trim that yarn. So those ends are taken care of, and then you'll have 2 on each square that you'll have to weave in. So locate the front. The front of your square will look a little bit different than the back of your square, the stitches. So we want to flip it over to the back side and weave our tail. Now if it comes apart a little bit like this, here let me get it on the white background so you can see. See how it's undone a little bit? Just give it a fresh cut and that'll help you thread it through your tapestry needle. This is not the easiest thing to do with this Band-Aid on my thumb, but we will do the best we can. Okay, so get that threaded on there, weave that in, go in one direction through the back side of your square, and then come back in the other direction. I'm just going to straighten that out just a little bit. There we go. Sometimes when you weave the ends, and if you tug it a little too hard, it'll bunch it up a little bit. So just straighten it out. And then trim that end. And then you can take your second square. These squares look really cute. They're very festive. And flip that over to the back. Now the front was the side that faced you while you were crocheting your square. So that side faced you the entire time you were crocheting your square. So the back is the part that was facing the back part. Okay, so we're going to go in one direction, come back in the other direction, and then we can trim that tail as well. Okay, so next what we're going to do is make sure they're both facing upwards so we can keep track of that. Sometimes with this is really bright and very heavily patterned, so sometimes it's a little hard to see the front and back, but just try and keep them stacked nice and neat so you can remember. Okay, next what we're going to do is make our pom-poms. So I've already made one in the other colors, and I grabbed the pink because we're going to make that one together. So you'll need 4 pom-poms. They can all be the same, they can be different, whatever you like. I'm going to go bright and bold for this project. So what we want to do is we want to cut a piece of yarn that's about, I would say 8 to 12 inches long, and put that aside. Then we're going to make the pom-pom using just our hand. Now I have a whole separate video for this if you need to practice a little bit, but all you really need to do is, now we don't want our pom-poms to be huge because our pillow is kind of a mini pillow and we don't want them to be gigantic. I mean, unless that's the look you're going for, but I'm going to keep mine. These are each about 2 inches wide, okay? So if you want to make a large pom-pom, go around all 4 fingers. We're going to go around 3 fingers. If you want to make a smaller one, go around 2 fingers. Okay, so what we're going to do is let the yarn hang down the front of our hand and wrap it, okay? So we're going to wrap it 75 times is what I did for each of these over here off to the side, okay? So go ahead and wrap it around all 3 fingers about 75 times. Okay, that's 74 and 75. Now let the other string, or yarn rather, hang down as well and cut. Next we're going to take our yarn that we cut just a minute ago, and then you can carefully slip this little bundle off your hands. Now just do this part very, very carefully to keep everything intact. And then what we're going to do is tie this bundle together. And you want it to be very, very snug and secure. What I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a little trick that I like to do. Tie that really, really tight, okay? The best you can with your hand. Sometimes it's really hard to tie a bundle this thick really, really tight. I'm going to just show you a little extra thing that I like to do. So we're going to use our glue gun later in this video to make the pillow form, but if you have your glue gun handy, you can also put a little drop here, and that will help just kind of keep everything nice and secure, okay? You can kind of squeeze that back together. Okay, next what you want to do, and try not to burn your fingers with that as well. Next, you're going to take your scissors and all these loops that you see, you're going to cut all of those loops. So just look for all the loops and just give them a trim with your scissors. Now, as you can see, this is much bigger than the pom-poms. We're going to give this a haircut. It's going to look really crazy and wild, but we're going to kind of take it down a little bit. Now, once again, if you want a large pom-pom, just wrap it more than 75 times if you're using this weight yarn, because it'll look, see how it looks really loopy and kind of floppy? If you want your pom-pom to be more dense, wrap the yarn around your fingers more times. So what we're going to do is just start trimming our pom-pom. We're going to trim it way back and get it nice and dense so that it looks fluffy. Okay? Now, I normally, when I'm not filming this as a video, I will do this right over top of a trash can, and that will keep the mess under control. But I didn't want to subject you to have to see my trash can on this video. So we're just going to do it right on the table. And if you like to recycle, you can use these yarn clippings to stuff things if you like to. So we're just trimming this down, getting it in a nice shape. And then you want to kind of like see how I'm fluffing it up with my hand? And just get all those long pieces nice and trimmed down. Once in a while you might see a loop that maybe you missed earlier. That's okay. And then just fluff it back up. See how that looks a little long now since I fluffed it? There we go. And what I like to do whenever I'm doing, we can move all this mess out of the way. Whenever I'm doing a project with multiple pom-poms, I like to line them up and just make sure that everything looks about the same. Now, they're not going to be lined up on your project. They're going to be at the four corners of your pillow. But I like to just make sure they're about the same size, and you can really control that with your scissors. This looks like really pretty yarn confetti, by the way. Okay, so actually this green one still looks pretty big to me. So let's trim him down just a little bit more. And a pair of sharp scissors are really awesome when you're making pom-poms. These are fairly new scissors, so they're nice and sharp still. Okay? Dull scissors really make the job a lot harder. Okay? There we go. Okay, so they're about all the same size, give or take, you know, roughly. So next we're going to learn how to do our pillow form that will be going inside of our pillow. Okay, so for our pillow form, I went ahead and cut two 8" by 8" squares. Now, as you can see, obviously here along the top, they don't have to be perfect. Just kind of freehand it. A lot of this you're not even going to see. So just roughly 8" by 8" or the size of pillow you're doing. Now, I forgot to mention this before, but so we have our two squares. I still have a decent amount of yarn left over. So with this, if you're using the same yarn, you could probably get each square a little bit bigger if you want a bigger pillow. But I really like this mini size. It's fun. So, and after the pom-poms, I had a lot of crumbs. You can use a scrap piece of fleece that you might have from the craft store or from another project. And this will really get all those little crumbs up. It sticks like a static cling magnet. So just as a side note. if your yarn fibers are all over the place. That works really nicely on a table surface or your craft table. Okay, so we have our 2 squares. So what we're gonna do is take our first square, and again, this does not have to be perfect, and we're gonna take our hot glue gun. Let me slide that up. I have my fiber fill here. It's a gigantic bag, so my apologies. It's kind of taking over here. And we're just going to glue down one side of our square. Just a nice, even ribbon. Gluing fabric and knitted and crocheted pieces is pretty handy and quick because the glue kind of works its way down into all of the fibers and it makes a nice bond. Okay, now notice I went down, over, and up, but not the top. Okay, we're going to wait on that. Now we're going to take our other square, and this can be a little bit tricky if you don't do it nice and slow. What I'm going to do is take my square and just kind of fold it in half. Because if I try to lay it down, you got to get it right the first time. Okay, and any of this we can trim later too. Okay, so just laid it down, and then I'm just going to kind of roll it up to the top. Okay, and then just kind of press it into place so it gets, so it works its way down into all those fibers. And once again, see how it's oozing? It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, if this was going to show, I would definitely encourage you to be a lot more careful, but we're not going to see this so much. Okay. Then what you're going to do is, while that's drying, you can take, and you can kind of feel where the glue is, trim off any excess that remains with your scissors. You don't really have to do this, but it'll keep a little bit of bulk from your edges, okay? Okay, then what you're going to do is take your fiber fill, and then I flipped it around, so here's our opening now at the bottom. What you're going to do is, and see how the corners, they might want to come apart a little bit. That's okay. It's just because I pulled it apart. We can reinforce those later. Okay, so go ahead and take your fiber fill. And my advice with fiber fill, it's so super messy. So just do a little bit at a time. You don't want to overfill because your pillow will start to look misshapen and kind of lumpy. And you don't want to do too little because then it'll look kind of limp and flat. Okay, so try and strike a nice balance with the fiber fill. Just do a little bit at a time. If you do a big giant handful all at once, it'll kind of like clump together and make a big, not so nice looking lump. Okay, and I'm working my fingers down into the corners here just to get everything filled. If it comes apart a little bit, that's perfectly fine. We will touch it up later. Hot glue dries really, really fast, and I tend to work on the slow, overly cautious side. So sometimes my hot glue will dry before I'm ready for it. Okay, so if it comes apart a little bit, if you waited a little long like I did, that's okay. Just get a blob in there. You can be a little bit generous too. And then just kind of close it back up. Okay, press it down in there so it gets in those fibers really well. And then up here, I'm going to reinforce it. See, I just did like a nice blob, and then we're going to just press that down in there, trying not to get it into our fingers like I did. And then our pillow is looking pretty good. Now see how it's pretty uniform. It's not lumpy or anything. And we're going to straighten that out a little bit too after we glue it shut. So we're going to glue it closed now. So just kind of lift that up and then get your hot glue gun out again. And then just run a nice bead down the one side and try to close it up as quickly as you can just to seal it shut. Okay. Trying not to burn the fingers is always a goal when using hot glue. I always seem to do that, but that's part of making crafts, I guess. Okay, so now our pillow form is ready to go. It's neither overstuffed nor understuffed, and we're ready to place it inside our squares, and we're going to learn how to seam everything closed nice and neat. Okay, so we have all of the components of our pillow. Now we just need to put it all together. We have our squares, we have our pom-poms, we have our pillow form. We just need a little bit of yarn. So if you did take your squares bigger, just save some yarn to seam the edges. We're going to use a single crochet seam to seam it closed. You can do a slip stitch if you like, it's up to you, or you can grab your tapestry needle and simply just sew it together. Totally up to you. Okay, so before we talked about the front and the back of our squares, this is the front of this square. This is the front of this square. What you want to do is sandwich your squares together so that the outsides face outward on both sides, okay? So the side that faced you while you crocheted your squares is the right side. So make the right side face out and the right side face out so you can see it on both sides. So think about when your pillow's done. You want to see the right side on both sides, okay? So then what we want to do is we're going to seam it closed with a single crochet stitch. So grab your yarn once again, and we're going to start in this corner space. So line up your two corner spaces. Try to get it nice and neat and lined up. And we're going to bring the yarn through both layers. Let me get my tapestry needle out of the way. And then we're going to tie. Now leave yourself a nice tail because we'll just weave that in as we go. We'll eliminate a step at the end. Tie that on really tight. Just like that, nice and secure. And then what we'll do is we'll hold that tail along the edge. The same thing we did when we started our square earlier. So go ahead and put your hook back in that same corner space, bring up a loop, and chain one, okay? So in each space, the corner spaces, we're going to work 3 single crochets. So to make a single crochet, insert the hook into the corner space, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around the hook, bring it through both loops. That's the single crochet stitch. Do that twice more for a total of 3. So this is 2, and then 3. I'm still holding that tail along the edge as I work, okay? So that's how we work the corners of our seam. Then what we're going to do is go into every stitch along the side, still holding that tail, and we're going to work a single crochet, insert the hook through both layers, bring up a loop, wrap yarn around hook, bring it through both loops, okay? So we're just going into the stitches of both layers, and just take your time on this part because you want your work to be nice and neat. These squares are really nice looking, and we want to keep our work nice and neat for the finished work as well and the seam. Okay, so we're just going to work a single crochet all the way across here until we get to the corner space again. So I'm going to go ahead and work my single crochet seam, still incorporating that tail into both layers, and we're going to get our seam nice and neat. And it'll provide, as you can see, a nice clean edge on there as well. Okay, so I'm going to work down to this first corner space and then we'll rejoin in just a moment. All right, I worked my seam all the way across, and now I'm just working the last stitch there. Now we're at another corner space. Just work 3 single crochets. Same thing we did for the other space. And I am going to continue around, and then what we want to do, okay, so if we line it up here, this is where we began. We're going to come down over, working the corner space the same way, and then up the other side. Leave the top open, and we're going to stuff our pillow into there, and then seam it shut from there, okay? So I'm going to continue working my seam around, and then I'm going to show you stuffing the pillow, and then we'll seam it shut and add our pom-poms. Okay, so I worked my seam all the way down over up, and I just have like this large pocket now, okay? So don't fasten off, just pull a nice big loop on your hook because you don't want it to come apart. So leave a nice big loop there so you can go back to work on it across the top in just a minute. And then take your pillow form. Now you'll see why I kept saying it doesn't have to be perfect. You're not really going to see it. The biggest thing about the pillow form is just to make sure that the filling is not too thick or too thin. Okay, so just work it down into the corners, get it nice and situated in there, and you can see it looks very cute. It looks nice and plump, but not overly so, okay? So then what you'll want to do is put your hook back in that loop and then just work your seam across the top to close it up. Okay, so my seam is complete. I'm just going to join where we began, that chain one that we did at the beginning of the round, with a slip stitch to close, okay? And then just cut the yarn, fasten off, and then you'll also need to weave this tail in as well. So just thread that tapestry needle, and we are almost done. We're in the home stretch. Actually, I need to give that a little snip because it's fraying on me. Okay, just give that a little snip and rethread it if you need to. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over, and then we're just going to go along the edge in one direction and then come back in the other direction, and then just trim the tail. Okay, now get your pillow all straightened out, and then we can attach our pom-poms. So we're just going to put one at each corner. So you have the corner spaces. You can just tie those right onto those corner spaces. And tie them really nice and securely with a couple of knots. I'm going to do 3 or 4 knots on that. And then what you can do is if you trim your tails flush to the edges of the pom-pom, see how it just kind of blends in and you can't see it anymore? Let's do the pink next. And once again, we're just going to tie it right into those corner spaces. A couple of secure knots will do it. 1, 2, 3 is what I'm doing. And then you can trim your tails just flush with the pom-pom, and it'll just blend right in. Well, now it will blend right in. I trimmed mine a little bit long. Okay, let's do the blue next. And he needs just a little trim there. There we go. And then do the same thing. Just tie all those pom-poms right on. Couple of sturdy knots. Now if you notice, I kind of flipped it up over that corner. That'll let it sit nicely on the pillow. If you tie it to the edge there, this edge here, it'll kind of flop around a little bit. So just kind of bring it to the front a little bit more. Okay, and then our green pom-pom, last but not least. Now I showed almost all of this pillow on video, so when you're working on this on your own, this pillow, it doesn't really take a whole lot of time to do. And if you need to save a step, you can glue, hot glue pre-made pom-poms on. You can use a store-bought pillow form. You could use chunkier yarn if you need to speed it up. And that's it. Our pillow is complete. It looks so fun, and this yarn is so much fun to work with. So that's it. That is how you crochet the party time pillow. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.